There are so many video games out this week. We're going to talk about a bunch of them today. But one game that people aren't really talking about a little bit too much, but is worth having a chat about, is Vermintide. And Scott Butterworth, you reviewed the game. Mary, you've played a bunch of it. Scott, first of all, what is Vermintide and why should I play it?
Yeah, it really slipped under the radar. It actually came out a couple weeks ago during, Call of Duty just came out and Halo just came out and Assassin's Creed was earlier in October and now we have Fallout today.
Yeah, Tomb Raider.
It was such a packed few weeks of game releases that I'm not sure anyone really noticed that this little game came out, but it's a game called Warhammer The End Times Vermintide. It's a very long title, but it is a Warhammer property set in the End Times lore, which is a specific part of the Warhammer lore. Because there's a lot of stuff in the universe.
So is this super high fantasy?
Yeah, it's like a very grim, dark high fantasy.
Okay.
It's very everything's just dark and gritty and angry and that. I mean, just look at the trailer.
And rats.
The tone. So basically, what this game is, it's Left 4 Dead. Straight up, it's Valve's Left 4 Dead, but with rats instead of zombies. The Skaven, as they're known in the universe. But they're basically, as you saw, humanoid rats with crude weaponry like the orcs in
Medieval
Lord of the Rings.
Rats.
Basically, yeah. And actually, it's down to Left 4 Dead. It's all the details are straight out of Left 4 Dead, including the special enemy types and special infected. So you have a smoker equivalent and a hunter equivalent.
Is there a boomer in there somewhere?
There is, yeah. There's the gas rats, they call them. They basically fire gas grenades at you and this huge cloud of green smoke appears. And so it's a pretty shameless imitation, but honestly it's not a bad thing. I mean, it actually really works. In a way, it's almost impressive that they have made a game that is as fun and plays arguably as well as Left 4 Dead with, I would imagine a smaller team. They don't get a ton of points for originality because Left 4 Dead came out 7 years ago. But yeah, you even saw in the last clip, your allies, you see their glowing silhouettes in the distance.
Totally.
It's straight up Left 4 Dead.
Nice. Mary, you played a bunch of Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, and it has been a while since a Left 4 Dead game came out, so without trying to mention that too, what's your impression of this? Did you enjoy playing it?
Yeah, you really sum it up well. It's absolutely, there's the hunter. It's a shameless copy, but
which
it's so much fun.
Fine.
Who doesn't
it's
want to
okay.
play Left 4 Dead? I wanted to play Left 4 Dead. The worst part about Left 4 Dead is that I've played those levels so many times.
Yeah.
I can't play them anymore.
You even did the gnome run.
Yeah, right. You do it all the way. You go all the way and you play it in as many different ways as you can, and you play the versus modes and everything, and you're burnt out on it.
Just sucked it dry. It's there's nothing left to play.
Now it's a new skin. It's so much fun.
Yeah, now it's medieval, and melee combat is a huge focus. It's not just, obviously Left 4 Dead was guns. This, you actually have both ranged and melee options. The melee is somewhat simplistic. I mean, it's the trigger button. It's just one button to attack, so you just point your camera at an enemy and pull the trigger till the thing dies. But it's still very satisfying. It's really gruesome, and the cooperative gameplay. It's very fast and frantic in the same way that Left 4 Dead was.
It's really hard focusing on co-op too. You really, really need to work together, just like in Left 4 Dead, which I loved about that game. Right, you could not play it and be a hero. You needed to work together.
Yeah, you will straight up die
and get your whole team killed.
Absolutely, and this incentivizes you to play together because there's secrets throughout the world, and they kind of benefit you in certain ways.
And there's a loot system, and actually one of the ways that the loot system works is you can find objects in the environment that take up an inventory slot. So you can find a tome that takes up your medical slot, so you can no longer heal yourself, but if you finish the level while still carrying that, you potentially unlock better loot. And if any single team member is carrying a tome, everybody benefits from that. Everybody potentially gets better loot, so that further incentivizes teamwork. It's really actually very clever. The only problem is that the loot system is pretty superficial. You kind of run out of new stuff pretty quickly. So it's a great idea that I think could have been executed a little bit better. But still, it's very cool that they even thought to include ways to force people to work together.
The characters in Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, obviously, we remember those characters, but they were kind of standard, they're generic. There wasn't much benefit to being one or the other. In this, are there classes? Do some people do magic? How does that stuff break up?
They're all different, and that's really wonderful too, because you can play the same level as a different character and have a completely different experience.
Yeah, of course.
You're seeing the
Bright
Wizard, which is basically a pyromancer. They have this.
Boom.
It's more distance, more range. There's a bow and arrow person. There's a dwarf that kind of has
Big battle axe.
A big battle axe.
AoE sort of thing happening there
There's
as
like
well.
a dagger
An Imperial soldier with a
assassin.
blunderbuss, like basically a medieval shotgun.
So are you stuck with the weapons you have at the start then, or are you?
You unlock more. That's sort of what the whole loot system is built around. You unlock both new ranged and melee weapons, and actually, generally, they're not, clearly better than the previous weapon, but they might open up a new play style. Like so the Bright Wizard we were just looking at, the standard weapon that you start with just kind of shoots generic fireballs.
Yeah.
But a later weapon that you unlock, which isn't necessarily more powerful, but kind of works differently, allows you to sort of summon fire from across the map. So it's more of an area of effect attack, as opposed to like launching projectiles. You can burn a whole bunch or a whole group, a pack that's closely packed together, get them all in like one shot. So it just opens up new options as you unlock new weapons.
It's super rewarding. This is a sweet level, basically like, it's actually, I think the first, it's one of the very early.
It's one of the early levels for sure.
And you blow this horn, which
oh yeah, this is literally the first level.
The whole horde of these rats towards you, and then as that happens, eventually a hole in the floor will open up and it's this extra level, but it's like that great end part of any level where you just know
it just
hundreds
ramps
are
up.
coming and you gotta defend for at least like a couple minutes. It's just like there's a smoke.
Whoa,
yeah,
smoker.
It's the same smoker.
Oh yeah, you're right.
They're
pack masters in this, which is
up.
actually
Sure.
based on something in Warhammer lore.
Sure,
It's great.
it is really rewarding to like get these final moments where you're kind of like bashing into all these dudes at the very end and trying to survive.
So if this is the ending of one level, what are we talking about in terms of like level design, or not design, but like how many levels are there? How do they connect together? Is there a narrative that's tying it together?
There are 13 levels total. They all sort of stand alone. They're totally discrete, so you can play them in any order. You have to unlock them to begin with, so there's kind of an order, but in terms of story, there's no clear progression between them. You're sort of given justification for why you're doing this particular mission as you start out, but they're not necessarily interconnected. It's all just like, oh man, the rats are coming, we're boned, let's like stop this however we can. So one mission you're like trying to recover ammunition, another one you're trying to, stymie their, you basically infiltrate a Skaven base and like destroy their home base.
Did you feel compelled to do the next level, or is it kind of like dropping back to matchmaking and just doing another random level?
It's the motivation. There's certainly no like narrative motivation to continue, but just the gameplay and the momentum of that feeling of you get to the end of a level and you're really amped up because you just went through this whole crescendo at the end of a level. It definitely makes you want to continue playing, and you can vote as a team on whether you want to return to sort of the home base and you check on your loot or upgrade your systems or anything, or if you just want to jump directly into the next map. Like I said, they're sort of designed to be discrete, standalone, and replayable. So you can kind of approach the game however you want. You can just play a ton of missions all in a row. You can do them one at a time and go back and upgrade your stuff every time. It kind of depends on how you want to approach the game.
Warhammer End Times Vermintide, 7 out of 10 on GameSpot.com.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Before we leave, what are the aspects? Where does it kind of fall short? I know it's a multiplayer only kind of focused game. It's $30. Where are the areas?
I mean, it certainly would have been nice if there had been a versus mode like in Left 4 Dead, which was sort of asymmetrical that you play as the zombies. I didn't punish the game too much for that because it is a lower price point. And I mean, that's kind of an interesting debate. I mean, I don't think that it's a reviewer's job to determine the value of a dollar. So I generally don't really consider price when I'm scoring a game but I do think that there are certain expectations that come with price points. So I didn't, like, oh, this game doesn't have versus, it's a 7 out of 10. But something to be mindful of. I think a bigger problem is that the ally AI is pretty awful.
Oh, so there is an AI?
Yes.
You can't play with
you have to play. There are 4 characters at all times, and it's either you and humans or you and the computer. And the computer is dumb.
It's garbage, and it's beyond garbage. Like, it's not, like in Left 4 Dead, you could play with AI.
Yeah,
and it was,
they were fine.
They were fine.
On
they
the hard difficulties, they were
It was hard.
Yeah.
This is like...
You could get by.
It's you can't get by.
Nope.
In this one...
they'll just like run off and do stuff while you're dying, and it's like, no, why? Come back! And I've heard it's gotten better since launch, but I was just playing the game last week, and it was still clearly a problem. I mean, that and like the loot system not being as fully realized as it probably should have been was also like not great. I think those are the big ones. Those are the big issues. Also, it was nice that the characters were individuals and were a little more unique, but none of them really do anything that's all that mechanically exciting. Like, yeah, you can aim down sight, but it's like, okay, that's the thing we can do in a lot of games.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice to see a little more originality rather than just, sort of uninventive new ideas for samey characters.
Cool. Interesting game though. Warhammer End Times Vermintide. If you can get all of those words out of your mouth in one
It's
go.
a lot of words.
It's a lot of words. 7 out of 10 on GameSpot.com. Available now on Steam for 30 bones. Let us know what you think of Vermintide in our review in the comment box below.